Retopology to start by adding a cylinder to the scene. And from the cylinder, we are going to extrude out the legs, which will eventually turn into the torso and connect there. And we'll do another cylinder for the arms, which will then connect to the torso at the shoulder. So to begin this process, we just start with a basic cylinder and roughly position it around the ankle. And once we have that, we can delete the top and bottom faces. And we can go ahead and add a shrink wrap modifier. And we're going to select outside. And we're just going to select our calf. Go into edge selection mode. Now we can begin to position our edges around where the edge of the calf is and fit it to that. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this same process with the arms. I'm just going to go ahead and apply all of our shrink wrap modifiers so that these are suitable extruding to each other and connecting them with each other. And then I'm going to join these two together so that I can connect different faces. Under viewport display, we can change this to in front so that we can always see where our faces are in relation to our original mesh. So now we're just essentially going to repeat that same process but with the arm and shoulder. And I'm also just going to go in here and make sure that everything, when we mirror it over, will connect with our 0, 0 axis, and it will create a little flat area for where the crotch is. I'm going to add a vertex group to this so that when we add in a shrink wrap modifier, it will only be using the top part of our new updated body mesh that we're making, our retopology, and it will only use that vertex group to form to our torso, and it won't take the leg and try to fit it to our torso as well. I'm going to go ahead and add a new vertex group. I'm going to go into vertex selection mode. I'm going to select all these vertices and assign. And I'm just going to call the group torso. So now we can deselect and select this group. And when I add in the shrink wrap modifier and I select our torso, we can switch the vertex group to torso. For the arms, I went ahead and just deleted every other edge loop so that it will match up a little bit better to our body. Now I'm going to start merging vertices. we are finished connecting our arm to our torso and to our leg. I'm going to add a vertex group to our wrist, or to our arm for the wrist. I'm going to call it wrist and assign it to these vertices so we can select and deselect. To add a new shrink wrap modifier, this is to project outside, and I'm going to select our hand. And for our vertex group, we're just going to select the wrist vertex group, so only these vertices are now affected by our. Going to go ahead and apply this most recent shrink wrap modifier. We go into the edge. We can bridge our edge loops on the bottom of the hand. Now we're going to repeat essentially the same process on the feet. Now that our foot is complete and all attached, we applied the shrink wrap modifier, we can move on to the next part of the body. For the fingers, we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to add a shrink wrap modifier, switch it to project and outside, and then we're going to select the finger that we want to project onto. Now we're finished with all the fingers, so we're going to start and do the thumb. For the thumb, I'm going to repeat a very similar process, but we're going to have to add a few extra edge loops in the hand. Now, once we hide all of our originally sculpted objects, we can see our meshed character come to life. For the head, we're going to use Blender's built-in remeshing tool, Quadraflow Remesher. And before we do this, I'm just going to copy our head over so that once we do the Quadraflow remesh, we are able to shrink wrap it back onto our high poly sculpt, and we can regain all of our detail with like a fraction of the poly count, which is great for optimizing our character for a game engine. So this head version can be our head low poly we can change this to because we are going to use the remesher on this. I'm just going to start at 2000 faces. We don't need too much detail. I might decide to bump that up depending on how it looks. Um, yeah, I think that this is fine for us, for our purposes. After we shrink wrap this, we can even turn it down a little bit more. So what I also want to do is just go in and delete the geometry for the ear because we are going to extrude this by hand with using a shrink wrap modifier onto our original high poly sculpted head. For the mouth, I'm going to go into our low poly version that we have here and add on a shrink wrap modifier and use it on our high poly version of the head. I'm going to go into our front perspective and select on our low poly head and into edge mode. And for this area of the mouth, I'm just going to go in and delete these faces here. And we're going to recreate the edge loop for the mouth so that it is more of a perfect circle so that our mouth deforms a little bit better. Now I'm just going to repeat the same process around the nose and create a circular edge flow around the shape of our nose so that we can get a little bit more definition here in all of the creases. When we're happy with the retopologized face, we're just going to go ahead and delete one side in face selection mode so that when we're attaching it to the body, it's going to be one half so that when we mirror everything over, it will match up. To make it so that we have the proper amount of geometry to merge our neck into our head, we're just going to merge edge loops together to create four-sided faces. So I'm going to merge one edge loop and then the other one, and then dissolve the edge in between, and it will create a four-sided face. And should have the proper amount of edge loops to bridge now. And now that we have all of our parts of the body attached, we are ready to mirror it over to the other side. The final step in getting our character ready is just adding in some basic eyebrows. So to do this, I'm going to start with a cube and scaling it down and bringing this to the position of where our eyebrows are. Now that our character is all complete and we've retopologized it, we're going to start the UV unwrapping stage so that we can texture our character and get some color on him.